Welcome back to Book Daddies, everybody. I am Adam.
And I am Austin.
We're not doing this again.
Oh, okay. I am Trevor.
This is Trevor. If you didn't see our previous episode, Austin is sick this session of recording. Our last episode, we were talking about our writing journeys, and it ended up being a little bit longer, and so we really only got through mine.
Yeah.
Which was fine because
It was a good conversation.
Such a good conversation. So,
and if this is the first episode that you're watching, stop right now and go watch the previous episode.
yeah, there might be some contextual things that you're missing out on this one.
So,
because we were just picking up right where we left off, and going straight into Trevor's writing journey, which is going to be quite a bit different from mine because you write for film.
Yeah, but I actually it was really interesting while we were talking. I actually was finding there's a lot of similarities.
Sure, yeah.
Where there's parallels, and it's like our writing journey has some similarities, but then the outlet itself is where it kind of diverts and like takes like a different turn, which is I found it really interesting.
Cool.
But yeah, I guess we can just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Unless you had more that you wanted to add.
No. Well, the only thing I want to add is to please like and subscribe. We love making these videos and we want to keep making them. So helping us to help you and helping us and doing things.
Which helps us help you to help us by helping you.
Right.
And
if you like these videos and they help you, then help us by helping you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, man.
So jumping into my backstory a little bit, it's very similar. Okay. Because I was the kid running around playing with wood swords and PVC pipes that are makeshift lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I unscrewed the top of like a croquet mallet. And was using the stick as a lightsaber, and I was fighting with my cousin, and at one point I was like swinging it around, didn't know he had been coming up behind me, and I swung back and hit him in the face.
that's just collateral damage.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
And it split his tooth in half diagonally, and it split his lip. But
that's amazing.
I was that kid as well. I was always just like a storyteller,
mm-hmm.
and my family faults me for it all the time because I'm one of those like short story long kind of people.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And
if you couldn't tell from our previous episode,
and this episode's probably going to be very much the same.
Yeah.
But yes, and I have a lot of the typical like details where like I'm including all these details and I'm like, no, you have to get it right, like because you have to like set up the scene.
Right. No, I'm
and
the same way. I get one of my manager. We started out as coworkers, but she's my manager now at work. She gets on my ass about that all the time. She's like, dude, get to the point. I was like, no, these details are important. It's part of the story.
Well, yeah, and it's like you're painting a picture, and so like my family makes fun of me because I'll be the kind of person where I'm like, and then they took like this really big breath. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, but I'm like, no, but it's pertinent because it's like, there's a difference between like just a conversation where it's just silence and then someone taking a big breath and being like, that says something about what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, you can't leave that out.
Right.
You know? So I was one of those kids that, I always have so much detail in my stories and everything, but it's I can see it visually, like it's like replaying like a movie.
Mm-hmm. That's how I envision stories too. Like when I'm like telling them, I've learned that's an ADHD thing.
Yeah,
because not everybody does that.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that until like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was the same thing with like visual in a context of when you're reading or when you tell someone like picture an apple, you know, or like what do you think of when you think of an apple, you know?
Yeah.
And like there's like different versions of it. Like our brains work differently, and like some people they actually like see like color and shape and
like
everything.
I mean, like anytime somebody says like apple, I automatically envision a Red Delicious, even though it's like the worst kind of apple ever. Yeah, but like it's just like. That's just where my mind goes.
I'll see a like imagery painting out where I won't even necessarily see like it'll be like a still image followed by like like a series of things where like I'll see like Draco Malfoy with his green apple like taking a
Oh,
bite or
dude,
something.
that's such a specific image. That's so crazy.
And so like it's very detailed, very
Yeah.
specific, and it'll sometimes be like I'm playing out like a movie scene, which also fun fact for the people who are watching the video, all these little like inserts that like we did in the past couple videos where like when we say something we have kind of like these meme kind of like things like the Febreze.
Oh yeah.
Like
Febreze. I chose
Febreze.
Febreze.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
that happens in my brain.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
That's
So there's
hilarious.
always times where like like when someone says something and I'm watching a movie in my head and
Yeah.
I'm not in the
You're not in the
conversation anymore
conversation. That's
because
so funny, yeah.
I'm like playing a movie scene.
That's awesome.
But that's how I also like described things, and so I would play it out like I'm seeing it, you know, and like it's happening again when I'm telling stories. And I can be very animated when I talk, and
Right.
I'm very
you gesticulate.
yeah, and I express, and I'll get passionate, and like my voice ramps up, and then people are like, okay, like I'm right here, you don't need to yell, and I'm like, sorry, like I'm just really passionate, you know.
You're not a storyteller, obviously.
Yeah. And but so as a kid, I was always, you know, playing pretend.
Yeah.
And I'd get made fun of for it because like that kind of carried with me as I got older as well. And I learned later on that like, so my little brother's a big baseball player.
Okay.
A lot of the times when we traveled when I was growing up, it was probably because Gavin had a baseball tournament somewhere, and so we were just making a trip out of it. The first time I ever went to New York was because my little brother was playing in the Little League World Series in Cooperstown. It was a baseball tournament. And then we went and visited the Baseball Hall of Fame while we were out there, and then had an extra week where we were staying in Manhattan in the city because we were making a trip out of it. But it's like a lot of the travel was like to Vegas and all these places was because my little brother's playing baseball.
Yeah.
And I learned later on, all the parents would be like, is Trev coming? Is like Trev coming to the tournament? Because I would go and play pretend with all the kids.
Oh yeah.
So
that's so fun.
So when I say I was the kid who was like playing pretend, that was like up until like last year. Like like
No, that's awesome, dude. Like I mean like I love playing.
yeah.
I think like playing, you know, like you grow out of it for some, because it's like oh, I don't want to be embarrassed or embarrassing, and it's
Yeah.
like, dude, like shut up, like
Yeah.
go play.
Yeah.
Like I love going to playgrounds still.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost 32.
yeah.
I'll be 32.
It
in
hits
like
different on the
15
joints now, but
No, yeah, it does. It definitely does. But I mean, like I'll be 32 in like 16 days.
yeah.
And like, but like, oh man, like I'm near where I live in Saratoga Springs. There's a park called Poseidon Park.
Okay.
And it has like one of those like German engineered pyramids, like with all like the ropes and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah,
goes,
yeah.
like you have one like that's
Yeah,
pretty close here, but
yeah.
like it's super tall.
Yeah.
Like, and I discovered that when I was like 18. I was like, this is awesome. Like, and I'd like go and like climb on it and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
I still think about that. I haven't been there in a while, but like, I mean, like, would I go today? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fun.
It's a good time.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
good time. It's good exercise. Like
Yeah.
playing, whether like just playing in general, it's good exercise, and we just stop doing it, and then we all get fat and sad.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I never wanted to do that. Like I was a
Yeah.
Peter Pan kid, you know, like I just wanted to stay a kid forever. You know, I
Totally.
wasn't one of those kids that was like so eager to grow up. I wanted the freedoms of being an adult,
Right.
but not the responsibilities.
Well, no.
I don't
mean, who does?
I don't want to be an adult. I just want to be a kid, and I
Yeah.
just like, but like I would play pretend, and it was my creative outlet. You know, like I would tell stories, and then like there'd be times where like me and my little brother Logan, we'd be playing pretend. We'd be playing like this war movie, but it's not a movie, but we would play it like cinematically. You know?
Yeah.
And you have like the moment like your 10 out of 10 bleed out spot, and so we play out like us dying in that
Yeah,
spot like
yeah.
18,000 times. But it was very much just like me playing and just being so involved in that. And but I remember a couple things that like really put me on the path of becoming like a storyteller for like my profession. One of them, I mean, so as a kid I liked Star Wars a lot.
Yeah.
I watched it again recently, like as an adult, and I have decided Star Wars is probably one of the worst things ever. It sucks so bad.
Yeah.
I actually think Rogue One is probably one of the best Star Wars movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
hands down.
hate me for it, but
Yeah.
it is. It's
No,
one of the
it really,
best.
like objectively, yeah, it absolutely is. I have so much nostalgia with the prequels and especially Revenge of the Sith. That Revenge
Yeah.
of the Sith will always be my favorite
Yeah.
movie subjectively.
Yeah.
But like objectively,
I mean,
yeah,
and-
Rogue One is phenomenal. And Andor
yeah.
also.
I haven't watched Andor.
Dude, you will love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been told
you'll
that.
absolutely love it. But no, yeah, I got Star Wars fatigue with everything that was like coming out, and I haven't seen a new Star Wars thing in like forever, and I just haven't even like I have.
Well,
not been
Austin and
interested
I
in it.
went and saw Episode 3 when it re-released in
So
theaters.
did I, yeah.
Yeah, so we went and
Super
saw
fun
it.
experience, yeah.
And yeah, there was the nostalgia and everything, and it was crazy to like be back in the theater seeing it.
Yeah.
Like I remembered seeing it in the theaters when
Right,
it first
yeah,
came out, and
yeah.
I was young, you know. And we all had like the times where we fell asleep watching the DVD, and we'd wake up and the main menu was just playing like on a loop or whatever.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So there's a lot of nostalgia around Star Wars, but when I went and saw it with Austin again when it re-released, I found that I was like, oh my gosh, this storytelling is awful.
Yeah.
These edits are terrible.
Right.
Like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is unenjoyable. Like, this sucks. And
That's
then
so interesting.
when I was in
Yeah.
school, we watched like a huge documentary. There's a documentary that's how the edit saved Star Wars. Which I don't know if you know this, but the original Star Wars was completely different from like I'm talking about A New Hope.
Yeah, right.
It was completely different than how it actually ended up being. And it was shot as almost a completely different film, but in the edit they were like, this isn't working. And they spent like 45 minutes of the movie, and it's all the stuff with Luke on Tatooine, and it's 45 minutes of this kid going around complaining about his moisture farming. And then we go up into space, and there's the space battle, and Princess Leia's whole like "Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope." That whole thing. That wasn't until like 45 minutes into the film.
That's crazy.
And so the edit, when they changed the order of how it was done and how it was playing out, it completely changed and saved the film to being the phenomenon that it is.
Yeah.
And there's definitely still stuff that like I can pay respect to how iconic Star Wars is, but I just
even just like the groundbreaking work that Lucas was able to do for special effects.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
the Industrial Light and Magic literally changed the game.
Yeah.
And then you know, Star Wars was it's a staple that I think almost everybody at least knows about.
Right.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's definitely merit to that. As a kid, I liked Star Wars. The thing that I would say that like, so Star Wars, Harry Potter, and then probably like the biggest one, which I would arguably say changed my life, is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to see Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't want to see it.
Wow.
I was scared, and I was like,
I mean, that's fair.
I was like, it's going to be scary.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, Trev, you'll like it. And I was like, no, it's going to be scary. And he was like, Trev, I will bet you $20 that at the end of this movie, you come out and you like it. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it for the $20.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went in, and then I remember the credits rolling, and my jaw was on the ground.
Yeah.
And I remember looking over and
was
seeing.
Was this for Fellowship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing my parents looking down the aisle at me, and they were like, "Well," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't like it." Like, but meanwhile, I was like, "That was the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life."
Yeah, dude, those movies are truly phenomenal. I only got to see Return of the King in theaters, because my parents were actually afraid that I would be too scared.
Yeah,
like, and like with like good reason. Like I hadn't been into horror. I didn't get into horror until I was like 12.
Yeah,
and
I'm still not into horror.
Yeah, I love horror, but the scene where Bilbo sees the ring on Frodo and he like reaches for it and his face changes. Like
I don't think was in the theatrical release.
No, it is.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because I watched the theatrical releases before we had the extended ones. Yeah.
Well, and so that was like the next part of of my thing was when I found out there was an extended edition. I was over at my friend Tyler's house.
Oh yeah.
And shout out Tyler. And Tyler was like, "Yeah, I'm just watching the extended editions," and I was like, "Extended editions? What's that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it just has more stuff that like wasn't in the movies or whatever." And I was like, Oh,
There's more.
and so then I started watching those, but
And there's no other way to watch it. Once you watch the extended editions,
absolutely,
like you cannot go back. And in fact, every
absolutely.
single person that I've shown the Lord of the Rings to, that has never seen it before, I only show them the extended
Exactly,
editions.
because that's the only way to do it.
It's 3 hours long, and I'm like, shut up.
It's
good.
You watch the Lord of the Rings 2 ways.
Yeah.
The extended editions or the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But on top of just like the marvel that is the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, they had the appendices, which was all the bonus features of the making of documentary of what went into making Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And I was in absolute awe. And I remember watching that in Tyler's basement going, can you imagine like being a part of something like that?
Yeah.
Like that would be amazing. Like look at all these people coming together to do this. And like that looks so fun. Like that's so cool. Like
speaking of like a behind the scene thing, obviously like the whole it's legendary at this point how Viggo Mortensen broke his toe.
Yeah. There's so many of those.
Yeah, there really are. But a few years ago they were showing there's this old movie theater. It was a dollar theater back when I was a kid, and we called it the Sticky Shoe in American Fork. And they were doing.
Why are all dollar movie theaters like the floor is sticky?
Yeah.
Why is that a thing?
It's so like I actually know an oddly weird fact about this. It's the chemicals that they use to clean it. It's not because like they just like leave it sticky from like spilled soda.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise, because then they would be patchy, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And like so like some chemicals leave this weird sticky residue, and and all they have to do is not be cheap and buy better chemicals.
Yeah.
And it won't leave a residue.
That's crazy though, because it's always the dollar movie theaters were the ones that had like the floor was always so sticky, and like everyone always assumed it was from the spilled soda that just got left there.
Not at all. Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. Anyway, so it's gone through several owners over the last few years, and in fact, the current owners can't even afford to like keep it open. It's just it's really sad. But before they closed down again, they were doing these like reshowings of like marathons and stuff, and so they did Lord of the Rings extended editions.
Yeah,
and we were sitting there watching Two Towers, and Viggo kicks the helmet and breaks his toe, and someone just yells, "Did you know?"
Yeah.
We all laughed.
That happened when because for the anniversary they did like a re-releasing of them.
Yeah.
And so like I went to this megaplex that's near my house, where we're probably gonna see Project Hail Mary, I think.
Oh, just like over here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But there was like one person in the audience who did the same thing when they're like, "Did you know?" And everyone was like cheering and like yeah. And then someone was like, "But wait, what?"
Right.
What,
There's like one person who's seeing it for the first time because their friends dragged them there.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna sit here for 12 hours.
And so then everyone like was cheering, and the person was like, "Well, wait, what am I supposed to know?" And everyone was like, "You don't know?" and so it was like no one's watching the movie for the next like 15 seconds because everyone were like, "Explain it to your girl, bro." Like,
yeah, dude.
But
that's so funny.
Yeah. So
I do when I am watching those like any movie that I know trivia about with somebody who hasn't seen the movie for the first time, I like do my best to just shut the hell up.
It's so hard
because like I mean like it is so hard, but like I want them to enjoy the story for what it is. Then like on a second watching,
I have a rule with that actually.
Then we can talk about trivia.
Yeah. Sometimes it's actually really hard for me. And like even when I went to like Austin's house for like the watching of The Last of Us, I went over and like there'd be times where I'd be like, "That's just Trevor." Like,
no, dude, I know.
But,
I mean, like, well, the one time that we were together, and I was like, "This is dumb."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I'm like sitting there and I'm like, just. And I have to like let it go. And then after I'm finished with it, then Austin will be like, "Okay, so what did you want to talk about?" And I'll be like, "Okay, so here's the like because I have a rule." And Alex Nibley, shout out to Alex Nibley, because he's that professor from UVU who like taught me so much about like storytelling and all that stuff. But he had a rule where for his film analysis class, the way that it would work is you would come to class, and I think we would have that class 2 times a week. You'd come in on Tuesday or Monday or whatever day it was.
Sure, yeah.
You'd come in, and we would watch a movie,
Mhm.
Beginning to end, we would watch the movie. If there was extra time, he might start the next part, but most of the time, that whole class period was watching a movie. You're not allowed to have your computer out. You're not allowed to have your phone out or anything. It's just
the movie.
watching. Lights off,
Yeah.
watching the movie. We are in a consumer state.
That's awesome.
The next time we come to class is where we start analyzing, why does this work? How does this work? What doesn't work?
Mhm.
You know, and we start breaking down the analysis of filmmaking. So many people, and I love this quote that Alex told us, like when I was going to school, was he said, "We are not in the business of 5 stars or like this many tomatoes
Yeah.
or any of that. We are in the business of telling stories, and
Oh my
more
God, dude.
importantly,
I love
telling
that.
them well."
I love that so much. So like, in a previous episode, I mentioned mine and Mindy's publishing house,
Yeah.
Inkcraft
Yeah.
Publishing, and that is like our core value is telling quality stories. Like, I don't give a shit if
Yeah.
if it's the next hottest thing. Like, if you're not telling a quality story, I
Yeah.
don't want it. Like,
Yeah.
and because that's what like publishing houses do these days. I mean, that's what like capitalism in the entertainment sphere does these
Yeah.
days. Is like, is this gonna make money? Okay, let's run it. No, that.
Yeah.
Like, tell a good story.
Yeah. And so our textbook, Alex Nibley wrote our textbook for the class.
Yeah.
And the name of the book is Good Stories Well Told.
Mm.
But that was his whole premise. He's like, we are not in the business of ranking movies
Yeah.
and rating them and giving them 4 stars or this many thumbs up or anything like that. Leave that at the door. That's not the business
Mhm.
we're in. We're in the art of telling stories,
Yeah.
but more importantly, telling them well.
Right.
And I loved that.
I love that too. That's wonderful.
But so I have a rule now where like the first time I'm trying to watch something,
Yep.
I have to try and like put on my watcher and
Sure,
my
yeah.
watcher hat and
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, hey, don't try and analyze this. And sometimes like I'll watch things and like if I'm watching something with friends, like Austin hates it and also loves it, but it's like I can predict the ending of any movie.
Yeah.
I can see the twist coming a mile away, and there's been times where I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is gonna happen." And he's like, "How? How do you know that?" You know, or like there's times
I
where
don't,
like,
I don't mind that nearly as much as I mind Austin asking stupid questions in
Yeah.
the middle of watching something when he's like, I mean, like, it's not a stupid question. It's
Yeah.
just, it's him like projecting his like thoughts about
Yeah.
like, oh, why is he doing that? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm watching the same movie as you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
for the first time.
he's just kind of like thinking out loud.
No, yeah, he is
Yeah.
thinking out loud, but I'm like, dude, shut up.
Yeah. But like I'll do that though where
Yeah.
like if I'm watching with friends, like sometimes because it's like a spectacle and like
Yeah.
Austin wants to know like what my thoughts are, so sometimes he'll pause the movie if I'm
Yeah.
watching a movie with him and he goes, okay, so what's gonna happen? And then I
Mhm.
tell him and he goes, let's find out. And that's like a way of me going, I know that I'm right, you know. And I've had a couple times where like I'm off a little bit, but like
Yeah.
I get like the main premise.
Yep.
Like I'm not perfect, you know. But I think a lot of that comes from like just knowing how to read the plot and
Yeah.
know like what's gonna happen
Yeah.
because of what I learned from Alex. But Lord of the Rings, kind of going back,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yep.
Lord of the Rings changed my life because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is one of the greatest film trilogies I've ever seen in my entire life. Arguably the best movie franchise, and it fell within a perfect time frame that blended visual effects digitally and practical.
Yeah. And for the most part, those effects hold up
yeah.
great. I mean, it's almost 25 years later for most of those films.
Yeah, they started principal photography in 1999.
Yeah, that sounds right because the first one came out in 2001.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm pretty sure it's 2001, 2002, 2003 for
Yeah,
all 3
yeah.
releases. Yeah. So that would make sense. But yeah, and they hold up so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
there's like a couple things.
there's a couple things like now, like 20 years later,
Yeah.
that I'm like,
And then there's stuff that like I can see now where I'm like, honestly though, like I respect it. Like I
Yeah.
can see it. Like for example, like when they're using body doubles.
Yeah.
There's times where like I can tell, like I'm like, that's like, look at the mask that they're wearing.
Yeah.
Like, but I respect it.
Yeah.
And like people don't do that in movies.
no,
these
they don't.
days.
Well, like, I mean, like, you take a look at all the orcs and goblins. It was all makeup.
Yep.
And it still
In
looks
fact-
great because of that.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to The Hobbit. I mean,
Awful.
those movies aren't like super old yet, but give them another 10 years, every single one of the orcs that are CGI are going to look so
But
crap.
you know what's going to happen though?
What?
The production company, I think it's Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers is going to remaster it
Mm-hmm.
and re-release and like do there. It's another point where they're going to profit off of a remastered edition of The Hobbit, where they're going to reapproach it. You know,
Well, I won't be buying
fix
it anyway because I saw the first one and that was enough for me.
yeah. I don't even like The Hobbit as a book.
Oh yeah.
Like I read The Hobbit and was like, that sucked. I read The Hobbit after loving Lord of the Rings so much, and I didn't want to read Lord of the Rings because I hated The Hobbit, and I was just like, this sucks. And and also, like, this is a little racist of me, but I don't like dwarves and hobbits.
Wow, you're racist against fictional creatures.
Yeah, I am. I don't really care, like in most fantasy genres, like dwarves are not something that I care about. Like
I can see that.
Like
yeah.
it's not the
like honestly, if Gimli wasn't such a great character, like I wouldn't care about him.
Yeah, and but like elves, I love elves.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, they're just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And elegant and badass and like just like
just cool.
They're way cool. The Hobbit being completely about a hobbit and the dwarves, I was kind of like,
I just turned it off to
I just didn't care. And I remember it's the section where like Bilbo, they're in the forest, and he like climbs all the way to like the tops of the trees or something, and it was like describing what he was looking at, and and I just remember reading that and being like it took me so long to try and read it because I was like, what the hell am I even reading right now? Like, why is this pertinent? Like, I just remember being like, this sucks. And I read it when I was kind of young, and I've been told I should revisit it, but I just didn't like it. And now, as an adult, I'm finally reading Lord of the Rings for the first time, and I have so much like respect, and I relate to certain things that each character brings to the table, and like I'm still not quite in the spot where I'm ready to revisit The Hobbit. I think I'm still a little too just like, that sucks, you know. But like maybe someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Hobbit I just didn't like it. But I loved Lord of the Rings, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, can you imagine being a part of something like that? Yeah. And so it kind of like set me down the path of like wanting to do like something in that realm. And I remember watching an episode of like Drake and Josh one day.
Love Drake and Josh.
And it's the episode where they go to LA. Josh like gets like his iPod mixed up with some other guy's iPod, and like that guy was like a mob boss or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I vaguely remember that episode, but yeah.
The whole reason they went there is because like they were supposed to put Megan on a flight. They put her on the wrong flight, so she went to LA. So they're trying to go to save Megan.
Yeah.
And like that's where it all like kind of like plays out. But there's like this moment where like these people, they were trying to print money, and so they had stolen like a legitimate like treasury printer, and they're printing monies like and stuff, and Drake and Josh are like caught up in the middle of it, and so it's like the chaos is unfolding, and there's money falling from the sky because it's just going everywhere. And Megan, being Megan, is just fine.
Yeah.
And she just is grabbing the money, and she's just like, I love LA.
Yeah.
And she's just like grabbing all this money as it's just falling to her.
That's amazing.
And I don't remember why it was so funny, but I was laughing about it, and my mom was like, what are you laughing about? And I was like, well, it's just funny because she was just like, and I was like telling her, I was like, and she's just like, I love LA. And I don't know why, but my mom was just like, you know, I could see you being an actor. And then I was like, well, yeah, maybe. And so then, and my friend Tyler, the one who showed me the extended editions, he and I would make movies in his basement like all the time.
Oh, that's so fun.
So we were constantly like making movies and like spoofing things. We made an Indiana Jones spoof that was Louisiana Smith.
That's awesome.
And it like I'm like in his basement, and like we have like this our golden idol, and I have like a bag of like cornflakes, and I'm like weighing it out, and like I reach in, grab some of the cornflakes, eat some of those, and then like switch it out.
Dude,
you know?
that's awesome.
And we're kind of like parodying this, and then we did a 007 spoof that was James Grond, and we tried to do like a miniature where we tried like for like a car thing, we were going to like cut to like a car that was like on fire, And so we took like a little Hot Wheels and we were like, we'll just douse it in hairspray.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to get it.
Sure, yeah.
We didn't spray and burn like a flamethrower. We sprayed it with hairspray and then tried to light it on fire. That's not how that works.
No, it's not.
So it wasn't working.
Yeah, it dries too fast.
But we would do things where like we would like turn the camera like sideways, and so it was like I was climbing up a wall.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And like we would do things where like the car's in his parents' garage and I'm pretending that I'm driving.
Yeah.
You know, like they were so bad.
It's so much fun though, dude.
And we did like a Lord of the Rings spoof at one point. Like at one point I'm dressed up as Legolas and I have like this cane and he's an orc, you know, and he's just got like this mask on, and I swung the cane and just wasn't paying attention and I hit him right in the head. And you just like you heard like the like it hit and him go shit, and as he hits the ground, and he was out for a second. Doesn't remember like falling to the ground.
Yeah.
But like later I looked, the cane that I hit him with had a nail sticking out of it. I could have killed him.
Oh my gosh.
It was scary.
That's crazy.
But we were just making little videos like all the time. And then I auditioned for a thing called John Robert Powers, which is an acting and modeling school.
Okay.
And I got a scholarship.
Wow.
And this is when I was like, I think like 8.
Wow.
And I did an audition, and they wanted me to fly out to LA and have a callback. And so it was an audition for an agency.
Wow.
And so I went to LA with my mom, and then they're like, yeah, we like you, kid. We want you to move out here. And my mom was like, I'm not going to have him move. Like, no, like we can't move out there, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
So then it kind of just didn't pan out. I did do like a couple fashion shows and stuff, and did like some modeling and stuff. But I that's kind of how I started doing more like acting. And then once I was in junior high, I started doing like the school musicals and trying to do more like theater stuff. And
Is that why you hate musicals, by the way?
It's not why, but like there's always a point in every musical that I see. There's always a point when I just go, oh my gosh, like another song. Can we just talk for a minute? Like
Dude, that's how I feel about musicals, just point blank. Like it's not oh there's another song, it's like oh there's a song.
Cuz like there's good songs
Shut
in
up.
musicals like
yeah, but okay,
but
so
like
for example, I did not know that the recent Wonka movie
no
was
one
gonna
did,
be a
and it wasn't
musical.
advertised as a musical.
Okay, so I went in thinking like, oh, we're just gonna go watch a movie about Willy Wonka's like kind of origin story. This will be really fun and interesting, and it's Timothy Chalamet, and I'm like, okay, and then they start singing. I'm like, why? Just tell me the damn story.
Yeah,
like I don't need a song.
Yeah,
and like there's almost always there's like 2 musicals that I think are not only okay but
what
really
are they?
good. Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And even better, Sound of Music.
Okay. I hate Sound of Music.
I think Sound of Music is like one of the only musicals that actually makes sense.
I've never been able to sit through it fully.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it. It's like the only musical that I like genuinely like.
But I've done pieces from Sound of Music.
Mm-hmm.
In high school I did some stuff with 16 going on 17.
Okay, yeah. That is like the worst song of the entire production.
Yeah.
But regardless, so like I went into Wonka and I was like, okay, like most of these songs are super unnecessary and just poorly written. And I'm just like, why?
Yeah,
like,
I never saw
why did this have
Wonka.
to be a thing?
As soon as I found out, like I wasn't super interested, but as soon as I found out it was a musical, I was like, I'm double not interested.
I wouldn't have seen it honestly, like either. But my parents were like, hey, we want to go see a movie with you guys. We'll pay for it. Like, what movie do you guys want to see? And then like I was like super busy at work, so I didn't get a say. And like, and then they were all like, we're gonna go see Wonka.
That's typically how it happens.
Yeah, and then we're gonna go see Wonka. And I'm like, all right, whatever. It's a free movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hanging out
and
with
then
family,
you're like,
who I genuinely like. I like my family quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So
musicals suck.
anyway, yeah. I'm not there's just always a point in musicals when I just find myself thinking like, there's another song. Like I'm exhausted. Like this. Like just. And it's like you have to take 3 minutes to keep beating a dead horse of like, this is what plot point we're on.
Right.
Let's spend 3 minutes reiterating the same plot. It's like the plot doesn't progress through the song.
Right.
It's like there's one thing about the plot in the song, and we're gonna sit here on it for 3 minutes to really hammer it in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
it's like the way that movies are written nowadays, except for not songs,
yes,
because people are on their phones not paying attention, so they reiterate the plot point like 50 times in one scene just to make sure 100%. That you know what it's happening.
I hadn't even made that connection, but that is 100% true.
Yeah.
That is like to a T exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just don't love it. But in junior high, they don't do plays throughout the year.
Yeah.
They just do like your big school musical, and then you have theater class.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I was doing, and it's just because like I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to captivate like emotion and stuff, but I hated English and writing. And a lot of times it was because like I didn't like the books we were reading.
That's fair.
And there's a lot of times like I remember in high school I clashed with a lot of my teachers, but specifically certain English teachers, and like anytime when we learned about The Great Gatsby, and that was like the book we were reading, they were using The Great Gatsby to showcase that the American dream is a sham and like a fraud and all this stuff.
Sure.
And I remember being like, oh my gosh, like this sucks. And it's a bad example for the agenda you're trying to push on me.
It really is.
Because it's the best example of the American dream, because Gatsby literally came from nothing and made a name for himself.
Right.
Like
it's not a cautionary tale of the American dream. It's a cautionary tale of what power does to you if you let it get to you.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I mean, and funnily enough, like, I mean, like, it's the same thing with Wolf of Wall Street, which I mean, like, DiCaprio played both roles, you know, like, it's like, it's like you have the American dream of making your wealth and like, and having, you know, this great success.
And it's also like
but
cautionary tale to who? Because like Gatsby died happy. Like if you think about it, like
true.
Like he thought even in the end, like when he's like chilling in his pool, spoiler alert if you haven't read it.
Okay, but like
it's been out for how long?
Forever.
But he's in the pool and he hears someone coming up behind him and he turns and goes, Daisy? He thinks that Daisy chose him.
Yeah.
He thinks that she's coming for him. Like he died thinking like, yeah, of course she picked me.
Right.
You know? Like so he got everything and then just died.
Yeah.
But like it's not a cautionary tale for him. Like
right. Well, even the Wolf of Wall Street, what's the guy's real name? Jordan
Belfort.
Jordan Belfort. Like he went to prison, but he's fine.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
He's like a motivational speaker and
yeah, and like I mean like and the other thing is too is I mean like I work in Park City in several art galleries, and there are several, you know, very wealthy, successful people that like trade stocks and stuff like that who look to him as their hero. We have tons of pop art about the Wolf of Wall Street, and they're like, oh yeah, he's great. Like, and I'm like, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Jordan Belfort is a piece of shit.
And he's a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. Like,
yeah.
But, yeah, so I don't remember how we got on that tangent.
Yeah.
But
oh, like the books that you were reading in
yeah.
Junior
So
high,
like
high
I didn't
school,
really like English. I didn't really like the literature classes and stuff, and a lot of it kind of was part of that. But then also I was lumped into this category where anytime we read like Shakespeare, which I didn't like Shakespeare, and
I don't like Shakespeare either.
And when we would be reading it and people would be like, oh, but you're a theater kid, so you love this stuff. And I was like, no, I hate it.
Yeah, it's like I have grown more appreciative of Shakespeare in my adulthood, but I still don't get the hype.
Yeah.
Like I never have every so often.
I will occasionally still quote Shakespeare because I think there's beautiful things in it.
Yeah. But like to sit there and read it, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
And but you know, yeah, like seriously, a few months ago, someone at work had their kid in who was taking a class, and she had to memorize a passage from like Hamlet or something, and the guy's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this. Like, recite the Shakespeare thing." And I'm just like patiently like listening to her, and she recited it beautifully. Like, it was really well done. But I was just like, I don't give a shit about Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Like, just because I'm an English major doesn't mean I like Shakespeare. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, and same with like, and some of it is like a language thing, you know,
Yeah.
and like there are certain classical literature things
Right.
that like I'm not a big fan of, just because like it's not enjoyable for me to read because
agreed.
it's such a difficult read. It's not that the content itself is bad.
No, the content is great, and Shakespeare revolutionary as a writer, like
100%.
like inventing
words. Yep.
You know, like so many fantastic tales and tragedies and comedies, you know, by him, and like and I fully respect him as a writer, but I don't care about reading the content myself.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat, and so like a lot of that stuff, and I ended up having to do a Shakespeare scene. So a friend of mine, so I don't know how familiar you are with like the theater world in high school
really
and stuff,
at all.
but like
other than well, you know, like when I was a kid, like if you were in theater and you were a guy, you were automatically gay.
Oh yeah,
but like
100%.
Like, which is
like, and even if you're not, like everyone assumes you're gay.
Right. Yeah. Which is like so like not okay. But that was also like 15 years ago. So
yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
But or like. Or you're just like really weird, like straight up. Like I knew a lot of weird theater kids.
Yeah,
like, and
the people who end up going to work at haunted houses. Yeah, like the theater kids.
That's so true. I do think it's interesting. Have you heard John Bernthal's background for his acting?
Yes. Yeah.
Really phenomenal story.
Yeah. Baseball scholarship.
Yeah, baseball scholarship. And
took the
a
wrong
theater class.
Yep.
Yeah. And ended
John
up.
Bernthal, I've met him
really?
a couple times in person, and
That's
he's
so cool.
really cool.
He's one of my like Hollywood heroes. I don't say that lightly either. I have very few people in Hollywood who I look up to genuinely.
He's a very cool, down to earth, real guy.
Yeah.
I like him. But yeah, so the way that theater and debate works when it comes to like competitive in high school is so you go to these competitions, and so I did debate and I did theater, and for debate I did more performative side of debate, not necessarily like the debate. Like when you think of a debate, you think of two people at a mic debating an issue.
Did you do math debates?
No.
I just like saying that because it sounds like masturbate.
Yeah. No, I did not. I did not do that. I don't do that.
All right.
I don't. So the way that the debate stuff that I would do was more performative, and so it'd be more like speech. And so it would be like I'd go up and give a speech and recite things, and then there's like kind of like you're given a topic and then you have to like improv something off of it, you know. Or there's interps, which is like an interpretation of something, and it's you are confined to like a 3-foot box. That's like the farthest you can move, but you have to basically like do this interp or this performance of a story. And so I did one for The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe.
Cool. Great short story. This
I think was kind of the thing that put me on the map in terms of high school like debate.
Okay.
Where my theater teacher like saw me as like, oh, this guy has like potential. And it was because when you think of that, like, so there's categories. You have comedic interps, dramatic interps, and contemporary interps. And you hear The Telltale Heart from Edgar Allan Poe, and you think dramatic.
Right, yeah, of course.
It's a horror, like very dark short, you know.
Right.
I performed it as a comedy.
Oh.
And
interesting.
So there were all these like sound effects that I was doing, like as I'm like pressing it down into it and stuff. So like I'm doing like all these things that like a bunch of the people in the Cottonwood High School's like theater department started calling them trowns because it was Trevor sounds. I just started like doing all like these like all the sound effects and everything, and I'm playing the parts and I'm narrating and I'm going through the story, but also like taking on like the personalities and like
Wow.
doing all this stuff.
That's incredible.
And and like it kind of set me apart, you know? And so that was where like my theater teacher kind of took an interest of being like, hey, and so I started competing in debate with that, and I took I got a bunch of trophies. I don't remember if I took second in state or third in state. I don't remember. But when it came to debate, I did place and I got medals and started winning things. And then for theater, it's similar. You have like all these categories. You can do like musical theater, monologues, you know, and there's this wide category, like a bunch of things you can choose from. And then you essentially like you travel to like these different high schools, and like you go into these classrooms and you perform your scene, and then you have judges and they like rank you on certain things, and then like you go through multiple rounds and stuff, and it works very similar to like how a debate tournament works. But my friend Abby approached me and was like, hey, I want you to do a scene with me for theater competition. And I was like, okay, sure. Like, I'm kind of a lone wolf, but like whatever. But she's like, yeah, I want to do something from Shakespeare. And I was like, no, I hate it. But she was like, please, you'll have to do it maybe 2 times tops. Like theater competition, like if we do well, maybe we go to like regionals and maybe state, but like you don't have to perform it that much.
Yeah.
I was over at her house like every day for a year.
Wow.
Rehearsing and basically getting tutored on what I was saying for all of it. And I was doing a scene from Richard III.
Okay.
And it's kind of a crazy scene. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Not.
But it's this evil character who is basically trying to seduce this woman while she mourns over the body of her dead husband.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So we decided to set it in World War II. So I was a Nazi, and I was like seducing her over the casket of her dead husband.
Jeez.
And it's terrible.
I mean, like it's an amazing concept though.
But so that was the scene that we were doing, and we ended up going to nationals.
Wow.
So I traveled all the way to Nebraska, and then while I was in Nebraska, that's where I did like auditions for like college scholarships and stuff. And that time, like all throughout all of this, it was all like performative expression.
Yeah.
And it was like so much of like trying to get things out, and whether that be through like music or through like visual, like I would say that like writing from a perspective of like novelization and stuff wasn't the route that kind of came to me, but it was like it was kind of a different thing of like telling stories or expressing feelings or emotions, where it's like if I was feeling down or alone, I would visualize, like I could see a character, and I would start to kind of paint that picture in my mind. And then it was like whether it was I wanted to take a single photo that captured this feeling, this story, or it turned into like a short story that's like just like a short film, you know. It kind of would change. It would kind of like, it depended case by case, but all throughout all of that, you know, there'd be like things where like that would come into mind, and I'd be like, I can visualize this, you know. But it was like, it was a creative outlet, and like I would kind of write up concepts and ideas and things, and I'm like, I can see this. Or like I would write like love letters or notes or things, but they would be more like dialogue focused, and it was not like, it wasn't like me writing out a scene of like depicting like this is the imagery necessarily, as much as it was like
it's the essence of what it is. I do that all the time.
And so it'd be like maybe like when I first came home from my mission, like I remember writing something where I was talking about like, it's like this guy and he's sitting alone in a car, and it's like he can see his family like waiting for him to get out of the car, like they're like they're just beyond the wall, but he's not ready to face that. And so he has this whole conversation, and it's like he's talking to someone who's not there, who's like sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And then it's like him trying to like get to the point where he then like he like turns to the person in the car and is like, I don't know how to continue. And they're like, no one does, you know, like,
Yeah.
but like I wrote, but it was like, and it's super dumb and cliche and like
Sure, yeah.
terrible, but like it was just a way of like expressing,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's kind of like where like writing kind of started coming back, but it was always storytelling
Yeah.
in some fashion.
Right.
You know, it was always like whether it was me performing it and trying to convey what was going on in my life, which I think sometimes is a really big problem for actors. A lot of actors will bring their baggage with them, and sometimes it can help them because it helps them tap into something.
Sure.
But other times, like bringing your baggage, because like I had people who would be like, how do you get to that headspace, you know, when from an acting perspective, when I'd be acting, I would have people in like my community that'd be like what's your process? And I'd be like, honestly, a lot of times it's just kind of dark, but like it's kind of just depression.
Yeah.
You know, I just like sit in my depression for a little bit, and then like I was at a point where like I had to kind of figure out like what I was going to do with my life, you know.
Yeah.
So I started going to school for film. And then my parents had said that like growing up, whatever money, so like they were setting aside money for me and my brothers to go to college, but they were like, whatever money you don't use of this to go to college, like if you find another way to pay for a degree, once you have a 4-year degree, we will give you this money. And so I started going to school for film, and then I started meeting, because I've always looked up to people in the military and all this stuff. I have this romanticized idea of what it meant to serve. And so I started meeting with every branch of the military, and they were all telling me the same thing. It was always like, oh, you could do this for the military. You know, like, what are you doing with your life? Oh, I'm going to school for film. Hey, you can do that for the Army. Or, hey, you can do that for the Navy. You know, everyone was telling me the same thing. And then the Marines, I was like, hey, like, going to school for film. And they're like, hey, you can do that for the Marine Corps. And I was like, how do I know that? And they're like, you have to take a test and qualify for the job. And I was like, okay, well, let's take that test. So I went up to Idaho and checked into a hotel, and then I started going through MEPS, and which stands for Military Entrance and Processing Station or something like that.
Okay. It's more than I would know.
Yeah. But I took the ASVAB, and then I asked the lady at the desk, I was like, cool, I'm done. What did I get? And she's like, oh, your recruiter will tell you. And I didn't see my recruiter for that whole day. But I started doing all like the medical checks and everything.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I knew, they're like, all right, we got like one more thing we got to do. How you were like signing everything was through like fingerprints. And so a lot of times like they'd take your fingerprints and stuff, and that was like your digital signature.
Right.
And I just kind of was going through like the signing process and all this stuff. And then they're like, all right, you're going to come into this room. And I see my recruiter, and he's like, hey, good news. You qualify for that job, and I'm going to get you that job. They just got to do one more thing with you, and then we'll head out. And I was like, okay. They took me into this room. It's got red carpet, wood walls. It looks super nice, very ceremonial. And they're like, all right, when the major comes in, you're going to bring your arm to the square. And I was like, what now? And they're like, yeah, you're swearing in. And I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Can I talk this over with my family first? And they're like, it's a little late for that. Like, you should have already known that by the time you got here. So I like stepped out in the hall, called my mom. She didn't answer. So I left her a voicemail that was like, hey, I guess I joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Wow.
And then
that's cult behavior, by the way. U.S. Marine Corps. You.
Yeah. It gets better.
Great.
So I was thinking I was going to be combat camera. That's what they told me.
Okay.
And so I was going to be like making movies for the Marine Corps. You know, I was going to be out like documenting stuff and being a photographer for the Marine Corps. My stake president was like, hey, we want you to go back out on your mission. And I was like, well, I kind of joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, talk to your recruiter. And so I talked to my recruiter, and they were like, yeah, if we discharge you from the delayed entry program, that's a dishonorable discharge. That follows you for the rest of your life. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes that I made in hindsight, but I took them at their word. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want a dishonorable discharge, because they're like, that's like a felony. Like, you can't own a firearm. You know, it follows you for the rest of your life. So by the time I'm getting ready to go to boot camp, they're like, oh, so bad news. That job's no longer even available. And so I'm like, so what do I do now? And they're like, well, you can pick between these two jobs. You can either do intelligence or you can do like basically firefighting for the Marines. And I was like, okay. And they're like, or maybe logistics. And I was like, okay, well, what does intelligence do? And they're like, it's like cool. You get to go, like, a lot of times, like, they'll send you someplace and you get to live there, and you kind of just gather information, kind of like a secret agent kind of thing. You get a top secret clearance, which is great for your career in the future. It's great resume builder and all this stuff, but you get to go live someplace. You kind of live like a normal life, and then you just report back and kind of tell them, like, here's what's going on and all this in this area. And then when shit hits the fan, then the military comes to where you are and you tell everybody, here's what it's like here and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, let's go that route. That's not what intelligence is. That's not what I did at all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I did have the top secret sensitive compartmental information. I did have that clearance and everything. And when it came to photography and my creative side, I was like a public speaker for a very non-public audience. Like I was not able to have a camera in the skiff or anything like that. Like I'm not allowed to do that. And so I felt like in the Marine Corps, I started getting more and more depressed because I didn't have an outlet. I didn't have anything that I could do in terms of like my typical creating, you know, like and I did like take photos like out and about, like just on my own, like when I was doing stuff. But when it came to like what I did for a living, like it was eating away at my soul. Like it absolutely like obliterated, like mentally and everything. Yeah, the Marine Corps was not a good experience for me. And I felt like I was completely cut off from everything I wanted to do and all form of like creative expression. So that's when I started kind of writing more, because I couldn't go out and make things. I couldn't make movies on the weekends or anything like that, because how am I supposed to do that?
Right.
So I defaulted to starting to just write more visual stuff. So I started writing screenplays, and I was like, I'll make these someday when I get out. It was a very hard time in my life, and so I defaulted to the only way I could do any sort of creative outlet, and that was by writing screenplays. And so I started writing short films and short stories, and they were like visual ways to express emotion. But then there'd also be times where it's like I would write things that had to do with war, and it'd be like that the whole point that I was trying to get across was there are no winners here. You know, we all lose something, and oftentimes it's ourselves. That was a common theme that I would run into. Eventually got medically separated, and then found a job right away, and was like, I want to go back to school for film. And so that's when I started looking at UVU. My job was like, well, you can either work here or you can go to school. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to school. So I quit and didn't have a job lined up, but I moved into Austin's spare bedroom.
Wow.
And we didn't know each other like super well. Like I knew him because I was married to his cousin. And so I was able to just throw myself into school. And even though I lost the GI Bill, Hunter could qualify for it, which is kind of stupid.
That's wild.
So I started doing stuff with the UVU Review. I was running their video stuff, and they would pay me in a scholarship. So I was getting tuition basically for free, because I was working for the school news team doing all their video stuff. And I was trying to like run that program. My school was being like catered to, and then because of that, we were able to tap into like Hunter getting the GI Bill that was paying like our bills because the school was getting paid for.
Wow.
And so we were able, I started taking like 19 credit hours. And just threw myself into it. And so I started doing like screenwriting classes and stuff. And film analysis, and learning like all this stuff about like storytelling.
Did you ever take classes from Lee Mortensen?
No.
Okay.
That sounds familiar though.
She was like the main playwright and screenwriting prof at UVU, but she's kind of not Nice.
Maybe if I saw a picture of her, I might have crossed paths with her, but no. I don't remember the first screenwriting teacher I had. I don't remember his name, but the second one was Alex Nibley. This advanced screenwriting class. I wasn't going to take that class. I didn't need it because of my my emphasis. Because the way that the program broke out, you had all the lower division and the upper division, and in the upper division, depending on what track you chose to emphasize on. Mm-hmm. It would dictate which upper division you had to take.
Yeah, it's the same thing for the English and creative writing. So you're like I'm an English major with a creative writing emphasis.
Yeah,
but it's just easier to say I'm a creative writing major.
My emphasis was cinematography. So I started thinking like, okay, I just need to take as many classes as I can, you know. So I'm like 19 credit hours, which is insane. Like my counselors are telling me like, don't do this. Like this is too much. And I was like, just okay, just. Just
let me do this. Yeah.
And every semester I was like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And then the next semester I would do it again. But I just wanted to like graduate so bad because I was just so done with school.
No, yeah, I get you.
But they had this global and cultural class that you had to take. It was like a required credit that UVU like makes you take this global and cultural class or whatever.
Right. No, yeah, I remember taking it. I will say when I first learned that I had to take it, it's uniquely UVU. Yeah. Like no other school in Utah has this as a required class. It's basically philosophy though. Yeah. And when I took it in my first or second year of school, and I was like, oh, this is so dumb. I'm so glad I took it though. Like I'm so glad it was required because it like even though my faith crisis didn't really start until 2020, it sparked a lot of thoughts. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to take it. Yeah. But I had good reason. So I lived in Japan for over 2 years. Yeah. And my military service living in Japan, it satisfied the credit. Oh, okay. So I satisfied the credit, but UVU was like, well, it's still a required class. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. If it satisfies the credit.
If I satisfied the credit, then I satisfied the credit. And they're like, but the class is still required. And I'm like, that's not how that works. Right. And so I went back and forth with UVU where I was like, this is so stupid. And at one point, Alex Nibley had just come by like the counseling like area or whatever. Yeah. Like he just came by at the right time where he was like, are you in trouble? Like just like kind of like making a joke and passing. And I had worked with him at this point. Like I had worked on like a short film for him and stuff. And so he and I kind of had an established relationship. I was very intimidated by him still. But there were like classes where I was like, I'm putting off taking like the director's workshop because I know it's going to be with Alex Nibley and it's intimidating. Yeah, right. Director's workshop, one of the best classes I've ever taken. The project I made in it, dog shit. Worst things ever. But the class, I learned so much. And there was a kid, Jacob Hamlin, who was always making great stuff because he would just say, screw your parameters. I'm making this, but I'm doing it the way that I want to. Like, I'm going to do the assignment, but I'm going to do it better. Yeah. I'm not, like everyone else, like, they're like, oh, it's just for school. Like, I'm going to film it on my iPhone, call it good. Yeah. Jacob Hamlin would be like, let me go like get my cinema camera all rigged out and film an episode of like True Detective. Like it was so good. That's awesome. And so his stuff always like, I just want to be a part of his group every time because I was like, oh, everything he makes is so good. Yeah. But his projects in the director's workshop were great. Mine were terrible, but the class was phenomenal. Yeah. So I had a relationship with Alex Nibley, and so he saw me, and he's like, are you getting into trouble? And I was like, basically. And he was like, well, what's going on? And I was like, I tell him, like, I satisfied the credit. And he's like, just let me talk to him for a second. Yeah. I don't know, like, what spell he cast on them, but he goes in and he goes, he comes out and he goes, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to take that global and cultural class. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And he's like, but instead you're going to take advanced screenwriting with me. And I was like, okay. And he goes, and you're just going to write about something like your story has to take place in Japan. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to meet one-on-one next week. You're going to join my advanced screenwriting class. And I want you next week to meet with me one-on-one. And I want you to have like a treatment, like prepped of what you're going to write about. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. That's awesome, though, by the way. So he went to bat for me, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I was like, I can't let him down, though. So I pitched this idea of, I was like, okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to have this story about this Marine who's stationed on Okinawa, and he's like dealing with like a lot of like certain like realizations in his life and all this stuff. But he's stationed in Okinawa, and at one point he's gonna go off base, and they have a festival in Japan called Oban.
Okay.
And it's this festival. So they start it where the beginning of the week, how the festival begins is late at night they start drumming through the streets, like these big drums, and they dance and they drum through the streets, and they're welcoming their ancestors back. They're guiding their ancestors back.
Cool.
And then their ancestors are present with them for a week. And
Wow,
then
yeah.
at the end of the week, they drum and send them off until the next year.
Huh.
And so I was like, so one time I was out in town, and I heard drumming in the streets, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Is there a war happening right now? Like I'm hearing like the boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
and I'm like, are we going to war? What's happening? Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And tensions when I was in Okinawa, tensions are a little bit tight between like the local people. Like when I first arrived on base, we got put on lockdown.
Oh wow.
Because there was a DUI that killed a local, and and it was like a constant problem. Like the Marines were constantly getting into trouble off base, and then we would end up getting where it's like nobody can have alcohol, and we're on lockdown. We have to be on base. And restrictions were there for the entire time that I was there. Like there were certain restrictions, like you couldn't go off base by yourself, like unless you were a certain rank, and there was a bunch of that stuff. I kind of pitched this idea where it's like, so tensions are kind of tight, but then Oban is happening when this Marine is just out in town, and then the locals kind of see him standing there, like watching their festival, and they're like, come participate.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to me. Like I went outside, and then I remember like this little old Japanese lady, maybe like 400 years old.
Yeah.
She's like, come. And she brings me over. I was with my wife at the time. It was when we first got married.
Okay.
We got married in Japan. Like she came out to Japan, so we got married out there. So it was like the night after our wedding or something like that.
Yeah.
And late at night we hear the drumming, and so we went out, and they were like, come, and then we watched as like they're drumming through the streets and stuff. But so the story I pitched was kind of tensions are high. This guy gets brought in like with the locals, but he sees this girl and kind of is drawn to her. And then the idea was that it's like, are you familiar with the movie Somewhere in Time?
No, I don't think so. Who is it with?
Christopher Reeves played Superman.
No, I haven't seen it.
Something Seymour or something. What's her name? Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's a really good movie. But I kind of pitched where I was like, it's kind of going to be like a Somewhere in Time, where it's like this Marine falls in love with a Japanese local who is actually a spirit that's only there.
Oh, cool.
Because Oban. And so it's like he has a week with her, and then at the end of the week, like she leaves.
Yeah.
And so by the end, because I was taking 19 credit hours, by the end of the semester, I had to just submit something.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to submit this. And I got like a C, and it was devastating when Alex Nibley wrote on the script and was like, felt very rushed, and like I just expected so much better. I hope that you keep working on this.
Yeah.
And I just put it on a shelf and
Yeah.
just never touched it because I got my degree. And
Right.
then reconnected with Jacob Hamblin, who, like I said, I always loved what he was making.
Right, yeah.
We made a short film together, and he's like, did you ever do anything with that script you were doing in Nibley's screenwriting class? And I was like, no. And he's like, you should. And I was like, well, I don't know how I would make it. He's like, well, I just thought the story alone was really good. I would look at maybe revisiting it as like a book or something. I don't know how that works, but I would do that. So then I was like, maybe I will. And so I was like, hey, Austin, you like to write. Like, do you think I could do this? And he's like, it's very different writing from screen to book.
Is.
And so I was like,
yeah, when I took a playwriting class, just as like, because you had to take for the creative writing emphasis, you had to take, there were 4 different writing classes, and you had to take 3 of them.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember which one I didn't want to take, but I thought playwright would be interesting. And so we kind of did like playwriting and screenwriting in that class because like it's like they're like almost
they're similar. They're very
similar. They're
similar.
similarities, but they're like very. But they're
my
also very
friend
different.
Tyler, who I talked about being like one of my best friends growing up, who I always made stuff with.
Yeah.
He writes plays now.
Yeah.
And he puts them on. Austin's come and seen me in a couple of his shows and stuff.
Yeah.
He writes plays. And he and I just recently connected about potentially working together on like a script that's like more of like a screenplay, and it's him kind of like he's like I'm thinking of dabbling in screenwriting. And I'm like, yeah. And I've got like a couple like scripts that I've kind of got like working on and stuff. But I started talking to Austin and was like, do you think I could do this? And he was like, because like I've taken books that I like and written stories that are like screenplays based on books that I like or things that I like that exist in other mediums. I've never tried to write something where I intended and wrote this as a screenplay and tried to write it as a novel.
Well, it's just so different because I mean, like for me, I'm a novelist, right?
Yeah.
And like I write all the details out.
Yeah.
And then in a screenplay or playwright, it's like, no, you're just writing dialogue. And then the director's going to take care of the details. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, but and I'm learning there is actually a lot of bleed over, and like there's certain things like where like when you're writing action, like in a book when you write something that has to do with like action and stuff, like that's part of it, but then you also have to paint the picture of like the scene.
Right.
In screenwriting, you still have to paint a picture of the scene, but you have to have that be way less of the focus, and you have to have the action be way more of the focus, and it has to be way more show me, don't tell me.
Right.
Versus a book is tell me what I'm supposed to be seeing.
Right. And then show me
and
the
then
emotion.
show me their emotion.
Yeah, right.
You know? And so they're very like totally different, but there's so much bleed.
There
where like the parallels are there, but it's not like two lines. It's not like you have like this is writing,
right,
and they exist like magnets where they don't. It's like
they're not parallel. They're like they're it's more like DNA.
Yeah,
like in how they like,
and they're
crisscross.
intertwined and have connecting fibers or whatever. And I think that bleeds into a lot of things where like when we're expressing things, when we're writing things, like it comes from a place of like our experiences, even though that's not necessarily what we're writing. Like we're not necessarily writing out a documentary. Like we're sharing, like humanity is a complex and lived experience that we all experience differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, like, when I mentioned when we were talking about like book banning before, and I was talking about how it's like reading is going to save the world because of the ability to more effectively like implant empathy to people, is like me writing a story. Like I am therapeutically offloading certain things that subconsciously maybe I have no intention of offloading, but it just comes out because I've lived a human experience, but my experience is different than yours.
Yeah.
When you put on the lens of me, when you see the world through my eyes, then it changes your perspective. Or, you know, it's that thing that Austin said, the glass door, window, or a mirror.
Right, yeah.
You know, and so it's a different experience. And so, like, you talking about your experience with writing and talking about, like, your faith journey, I'm like, yeah, I relate to that. It's a form of connection where, like, I'm like, yeah, I connect to that. And, like, I kind of am on that same vibe. Like, it played into my experience as well. Not the same, but I also share that experience. But it's very different, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But I still think that my experiences impact like my writing as well. So I think that like it totally plays into that.
Yeah. There's like, I mean, there's a total, there's 100% truth to the whole adage of write what you know.
Yeah.
Which to a lot of new writers, those of you who are new writers that are listening, that shouldn't be a limiting factor. Like I write stuff that I don't know about all the time. It's called researching.
Yeah.
But like that rule though comes from writing what you know emotionally, writing what you know personally on the personal level. Like don't write, if you're white, don't write about a black person. You don't know what that is.
Well, research exists.
Yeah, no, research exists, but don't pretend. If you're gonna do it, you got to do it in a very sensitive way. But don't go and be like, oh, I'm gonna write about a black person and pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
Right. It's the equivalent of when
it's an extreme example.
when men write a female protagonist.
Right.
There's a lot of people who don't like that, and they're like, you can clearly tell when it was a male writer versus a female writer and stuff.
Well, and a lot of that can be fixed by having sensitivity readers and
that's what I was going to bring up is and some of that can be avoided, even with from the film perspective. You have consultants that you can reach out to. The number of times that you see something that happens that's a military thing, and people who served in the military are like, that's bullshit. That's not how that is at all when it comes to a movie portrayal. And it's it would have taken you 2 seconds to do the research on this one particular thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, but the basically what I'm I guess getting to is that every person is experiencing life differently.
Yep.
And for every person who's writing, you can write a story, I can write the exact same story, and our stories will convey different feelings.
Yeah.
I've thought that it would be a really cool experiment to have two people given the exact same script and see how they approach it differently.
Sure, yeah. We do that all the time in class or whatever. We're given a prompt.
Yeah.
Write a story about this, and then and two completely different stories.
Yeah.
From two completely different people will emerge.
Yeah.
And then you multiply that by a classroom size. 20, 30 people.
I think Peter Jackson's version of The Lord of the Rings would be very different than Guillermo
del Toro.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
speak Spanish really well, and I struggle with that name.
Yeah, it is one of the worst ones. Anytime I ever try and say that name, I cannot get it. If I ever do get it, I'm like, yeah, I got it. But it's never on the first try.
Yeah. Well, Guillermo
del Toro.
It's a tough name. It's not a common Spanish name because it's a little antiquated, and so and it translates to William, but
William del Toro.
Yeah, William del Toro. William of the Bull. That's what that name translates to.
Fun fact. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
well, sorry this was so long. And you can blame it on Austin, who abandoned us.
Yeah, usually keeps us in check with time.
But if you found any of this enlightening and enjoyed any of this, you should make sure that you like this video, send it to someone who you think would also like this video, or send it to someone who you think would like writing movies, I guess.
Yeah, or writing books. And
comment and subscribe.
Yeah, comment and subscribe so that you keep getting our stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll keep making videos whether you're here or not. So be here.
Cool.
All right, man. Oh, yeah.
It was fun.
It was.